Hey again everyone, and welcome back to the channel for another installment in our new figure showcase series, where we take a look at a newer figure that I'm adding into the collection. And for those of you who haven't been here before, most of the time that is going to be a newer release, although sometimes I do go back and back collect. But for today's installment, we're going to take a look at the latest release from 3Zero's ongoing Stranger Things 6 scale line, and in particular their Mike Wheeler character, who actually completes the Season 1 kids. Once we get Hopper released, I think that's pretty much the completion of the Season 1 versions for now, although they do have Vecna up from Season 4, and they have teased other characters including Eddie from Season 4, so it seems like this line from them might have some legs. Now, Stranger Things has been an amazing show, and each season has been approached as a movie of sorts. So we've gotten the kids now and the Demogorgon, so it's happy to have a representation from the show in the collection. Now, you can find the other figure reviews on the channel, and honestly, 3Zero started off impressing me with their 11 figure that had an amazing likeness, and the Demogorgon itself, which was really well done. I did think Lucas was another great figure, although Dustin had issues with his likeness, and unfortunately I thought their Will Byers was definitely not the best either. So that brings us to Mike Wheeler. So let's start with a look at what we're getting here from 3Zero. And you want to talk about bare bones, this is a pretty light release. So you get the figure, the backpack, a walkie-talkie, a flashlight, and some spare hands, and that is it. Typical with this line of figures and 3Zero in general, you don't get any stands. I don't think the figures need them, but it would be a nice thing to have. The one thing that I was thinking about the figures including would have been bikes. You even seen the figure on the box with a bike, and that would have been just a nice add. Granted, the price on these is relatively low for 6 scale, so I'm sure that factored into things. So this is also going to be a short video just because there's not much here that we're getting. So let's just start by taking a look at the accessories, and as we normally do, we'll start with the spare hands. So you get a few of the standard ones here, just reduced to the smaller scale. They're fine, decent paint apps overall, but they're also relatively identical to all the figures we've gotten before, with the hands designed just to hold the accessories. So there really is nothing earth-shattering here. Next up, you get the backpack, and this is actually really nicely done. I like the material selection here with that light brown, almost nubuck-like material at the bottom, and then the strings holding the zippers in place are also really nicely done, almost like a JanSport backpack. And I might be dating myself, I don't know if kids these days still have JanSports, but so be it. And then you get the nice white, black, and green-like material, so it does have a nice little color variation. And then the straps also have some nice clip details, so easily the nicest accessory in the bunch. Next up, you get a flashlight, and it's a decent accessory. Looks very retro with the full silver body and the grooved handle. You can also see the switch to turn the light on at the top, and there is a nice clear plastic cover on the front of the front to kind of represent a light. So decent accessory, although not the most exciting. So I get that, but it's in line with the series of figures. And then the final accessory is one we've gotten multiple times before with most of the releases in the line, and that's the walkie-talkie. So a total reuse of parts here. Not a dig at 3Zero because they're just recreating what was on screen. The radio looks fine, it's got some good detail work on the front, and then the back strap is molded plastic, so it's not likely to break on you. So overall, nothing different here, just a decent accessory. And then you do get a small wristwatch. Look, most of the time this is going to be hidden by the figure's jacket, although you could kind of pose him to reveal it, and it is kind of a calculator watch, so that's a good add for the time period. So now let's get into the scope, because ultimately with a figure this simple, figure has to shine. And I'll preface this by saying, at the price point, I'm not expecting Hot Toys quality. But I'm also going to say 3Zero has upped my expectations with the pretty amazing Rambo figures. And again, like I mentioned at the start, some of the earlier releases from this line were amazing. So I mention all that because this feels like a step back. And honestly, their Will Byers sculpt was also a step backwards. You will know who these are supposed to be when you see them all standing together, and with 11 and the Demogorgon, you'll know it's Stranger Things. But beyond that, the likeness to me isn't there. Maybe if you squint and turn your head just the right way, you can see a bit of the likeness. I don't know if it's the sculpt itself or the paintwork. Starting with the eyes, it's a huge pet peeve for me in the 6 scale figures. Great companies like Hot Toys, InArt with their releases, and even Damn Toys have kind of mastered the eyes to make them look lifelike. Here they're painted on, but they lack that finesse. And even the paintwork on the hair just feels sloppy, especially where it hits the forehead. So I think that's what it feels like here. It just lacks the refinement that we've come to expect from these companies. Does it look like Season 1 Mike? Sure, but I think the paintwork lets this down. Just not the best, unfortunately, and without the sculpt, it really hurts the overall ranking of the figure. Now, the rest is pretty standard. 3-0 really did recreate the look from Season 1 with the striped shirt, the jacket, the jeans, and the sneakers. And it's unfortunate that the sculpt is lacking because the tailoring on the clothes are pretty decent. Material selection on the jacket, it has that nylon feel. And then the sneakers are really well sculpted and also have that slight wear to them that you'd expect from kids playing and scuffing things up. So there are a lot of positives here. Look, if you're picking up this line, it's probably because you're like me and you're a huge fan of Stranger Things. So having Mike is a must to have that full group of kids from that inaugural season, right? Trying to rescue Will from the Upside Down. So I needed this figure to complete that set. But I have to be honest, on its own, if I didn't have the rest of the figures in the line, this would have probably been a pass for me. Sculpt is just not as good as what we now expect from 3-0, and we know they can do. And for a figure that doesn't really come with anything, figure has to stand out on its own, and it really doesn't. So to me, that's a miss. What else can I say? Posability is decent, but again, we're not looking at a Spider-Man or a soldier, right? You're getting him with the walkie-talkie and the flashlight, so he's mainly going to be in a museum pose, which is fine. So overall thoughts on this one, this is one I can only recommend if you have the other figures and are a fan of the show. Otherwise, I think it's an easy pass. Figure doesn't have any amazing accessory, and unfortunately, the likeness is a major weak spot. So this is a figure that is going to appeal to just Stranger Things fans. And I think the interest too is waning in general. It's been a while since the last season came out, so I feel like these figures are running under the radar at this point in time. So again, am I happy I got him? Yes and no. I'm happy because it almost completes the line of figures, but I am disappointed in how it turned out. Frankly, because 3-0 has raised our expectations. So it feels like a major step back. So it's a figure, again, I can only recommend if you're trying to get the full line. And I do feel like once you have all the figures together, then the line is really going to pop. But on its own, it's not really something that stands out. But let me know your thoughts, and as always, thanks for watching. And if you are enjoying the content, please consider dropping a like, comment, or subscribing, and we'll touch base on the next video.